Good evening, good folks, and welcome to the City of Muskegon City Commission General Session for this Tuesday, November 26, 2024. Hopefully you all can hear me well enough. I'm wearing a mask right now. Just got over COVID. I am negative testing, but out of an abundance of caution, I'm wearing a mask just to be safe. Don't want to be spreading anything right before Thanksgiving. Nonetheless, welcome. We do have a couple of comment periods today. One is towards the beginning of the meeting on any agenda items, and another public comment period at the end of the meeting on any topic you wish to share with the City Commission. Note, during public comment periods, there's a 3-minute time limit. There's in-person comment, and then there's phone-in comment as well. In either regard, you have the 3 minutes to provide remarks. It is a time for you to share your thoughts and perspective with the City Commission, not necessarily back and forth dialogue or Q&A time. We can set up a separate time to do that. If you do wish to give public comment, please complete a public comment form at the back of the room. Provide your name and home address. Note, I will not be sharing your home address publicly, nor asking you to announce your home address. That is for our records. For public comment by phone, we will be showing a phone number at the bottom of the screen. I'll give that to you now, just so you have that at the ready. That's 231-724-6721. Do not call in right this moment. All right, before we get on with our business, we are going to be led in prayer by Pastor E.J. Wood from All Shores Wesleyan Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you wish to join us for either the prayer or Pledge of Allegiance, I ask that you stand if you're so capable of doing so. Welcome, Pastor.
Evening. Thank you, Mayor Johnson. If you would like to join me, I invite you to bow your heads and pray with me now. Loving and generous God, on this week of Thanksgiving, we come before you with thankful hearts. Thankful for the privilege and opportunity that it is to live in and serve Muskegon, and thankful for the leadership of our City Commission. I thank you for these leaders who have responded to the call to serve our city and their neighbors, and I pray that you would increase in them wisdom, discernment, integrity, and a servant's heart. I pray that you would help each of us who are members of this community to honor these individuals placed in leadership. As you give them vision for what is best for Muskegon, would you help us together to live peaceful lives that honors one another and you? Father God, would you make us into a community of upright living, social concern, and personal integrity? And as the business of tonight's meeting is conducted, I ask that your spirit of wisdom would present in this place and be present, giving clear direction where it's needed, patience when things are not clear, and grace where there are differences of opinion. Finally, I ask that you bless this great city of Muskegon and cover it with your favor. Bring healing where there's brokenness, unity where there's division, and peace where there is unrest. I pray that you unite our leaders and neighbors for one purpose of bringing heaven to earth. Thank you again for each of these who has gathered here tonight, and bless this meeting time together. In the name of the Father, Son, and Spirit, we pray together in agreement. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you.
We have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Keener, absent. Commissioner German.
Here.
Commissioner Gorman.
Here.
Commissioner Cochin.
Here.
Vice Mayor St. Clair.
Here.
Mayor Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Kilgo.
Here.
Thank you. All right. Brings us to public comment. We've got a few public comment forms on agenda items. And we're going to start with Maria McIntosh joining us from the Jackson Hill neighborhood. Welcome, Ms. Maria. You have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks.
Hello, I'm Maria McIntosh, and I'm not representing Jackson Hill. I'm representing Threads.org today. Good evening, City of Muskegon Commissioners. Thank you all for allowing me to address you today. My name is Maria McIntosh, representing Threads.org, an organization dedicated to countering the negative effects of gentrification and advocating for equitable solutions for our Black, Brown, and most vulnerable communities. I am here regarding agenda items Q through V related to zoning amendments. Over the past 3 years, the concerns raised by the community about form-based code, rezoning, and gentrification remain unaddressed. Instead of fostering true engagement, the city has diluted community voices, focusing on low-hanging fruit while systemic issues persist. Threads.org has consistently offered solutions, sharing survey data, studies from Northeastern University, and proposals to mitigate gentrification, yet these efforts have been ignored or dismissed. Meetings are delayed, and when they do occur, the dismissive attitudes of some of the city workers or commissioners only deepen mistrust. Meanwhile, affordable housing rhetoric is weaponized with no protections ensuring long-term affordability. For-profit developments often convert to market-rate housing after compliance periods end, perpetuating cycles of displacement. Let me be clear. Threads.org stands against investment without justice. This is not about opposing developers, business people, or specific elected officials. This isn't personal. This is about community. Every decision must reflect equity, justice, and the well-being of those you serve. Municipalities should not solely control narratives that impact communities. Real progress requires partnerships rooted in equity and humility. The proposals on tonight's agenda fail to prioritize the needs of our Black, brown, and vulnerable communities, instead continuing a pattern of investment at their expense. But know this, Threads.org will not stop advocating for as long as God grants me breath and as long as this community has life. We will remain resolute. We will not be silenced, and we will not stand by as our neighbors are exploited. This is not personal, it's purpose, it's community. And we will stand alongside it every step of the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Maria. Appreciate you joining us this evening. Next up, we have Rory Thibault, joining us from the Lakeside neighborhood. Welcome. You have 3 minutes to provide your remarks.
Thank you. Rory Thibault. Good evening. I wish to take this opportunity tonight to again urge you to vote in support of all proposed zoning amendments constituting this zoning reform measure. Prior to the first reading, I had provided a letter detailing my personal and professional experience, highlighting the real ways in which local laws and the provision of land materially impact the lived experience of us already living here, those considering moving, and those who wish to stay in this community. Instead of restating those items again, I hope to illustrate the other forms of housing reform that are needed, not to diminish the value of the efforts you are voting on this evening, but to illustrate that these alone will not absolve us of our need to act in this housing crisis and that more must be done together. Regarding financing and affordability that was discussed previously, the city and the new county housing coordinator should be encouraging local lenders to come to the table and explore or at least detail different financing models for the construction of accessory dwelling units, conversions of single-family homes into duplex or triplex, aside from utilizing traditional models such as HELOC, construction and personal loans, which can pose a significant cost barrier for low-income families wishing to explore these options. Likewise, providing resources for co-purchasing, rent-to-own, and other novel ownership structures which would result from multiple persons sharing in the cost of ownership, lowering the barrier to entry, and treating housing not as a commodity but as a basic human right. Further, creating or encouraging the development and recruitment of alternative financial institutions like CDFIs and CDCs, non-market housing structures like community land trusts, and community-focused housing policies like CAPA and TAPA that other municipalities across the U.S. have already employed are supplemental ways to minimize the adverse impacts, gentrification, and displacement that could occur through deregulation, ensuring that community members can maintain their ability to exercise their rights, notwithstanding the benefits of increasing the catalog of housing structures to serve more people and encourage more housing choice. Regarding rent control and further protections for renters, as was mentioned previously, you could support or pass a resolution supporting House Bill 4947, which would allow local units of government to establish rent control policies, or directly contact State Representative Will Snyder. You could pass a resolution supporting Senate Bills 900 to 903, known as the Tenant Empowerment Package, or directly contact State Senator John Bumstead. You could pass a resolution supporting the repeal of the Faircloth Amendment, which restricts the total number of public housing units to be built, or contact Representative Skolton. Now, these policies may seem beyond your scope either of support or will, or perhaps you're more concerned with what we can do locally where your voice and the voice of the community is more readily apparent and visible. Or perhaps you feel that housing shouldn't be a partisan issue and pitting the government against developers is a needless approach. Regardless, one thing seemingly that pro-business and deregulatory think tanks and progressing housing advocates can agree on is zoning reform. Increasing housing options
Thank you, Mr.
stimulates the
Tebow.
market, is prudent fiscal policy, and provides more choice. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you joining us this evening. Next up, we have Aaron Bodbaum-Mast, or Bob-Bill. I always say Bob-Bill. It's Bob-Bill. It is Bob-Bill. Okay, Bob-Bill-Mast.
Yeah, they're used to
All right.
they're used to bot biles over here, but over in Grand Rapids we had bot biles.
Welcome, sir. Joining us from the Beechwood Bluffton neighborhood. You have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks.
Oh, I lost 5 seconds there, but so yeah, Roy, I echo everything he said. If last time there was a lot of discussion about whether this will help solve homelessness. This won't. Is it a step? Is it a piece of the puzzle? Yeah. We know how to solve the housing crisis. The other communities have done it globally. Vienna, Singapore, you build public housing. It's a basic human right. We should have universal health care. We should have universal housing. But we're not going to fix that today, so this is one step in the right direction. You've got to have more choice that will help the efforts you're doing with the brownfield TIF that Jake is working on, but it'll also help if Jake said they're working on a community land trust, and I wish that was first, but let's not, we could do better housing options with the community land trust if you pass the zoning reform. So that was a couple things. Since Rory went that way, I had a prepared thing. But one thing, three other quick things. One is talk about love. One thing when you, philosophically, theologically, when you love something, really, you want to share it. And I love Muskegon, and I want to share it. And I can't share it in my neighborhood. People, especially with young families, people can't afford to move into Beechwood Bluffton. We got lucky and hit the right time and our right point in our careers and our lives when we could do it. We had kids relatively young, and then they're in college and stuff now, so it would hit perfectly. But there's at Halloween there's not a lot of kids trick-or-treating in Beechwood Bluffton. I'd love to see more kids, but it's not going to happen if we keep the single family form only, which we know was purposefully to create certain exclusive things. It was look it up. It was invented in Berkeley, California, and had a specific goal. So we'd like to correct those injustices off of that thing and not hoard. Right now it's popular to pull the ladder up after us after we get it, put our stake in the ground in this place. But I don't want to do that. So I want to share it, and I want to share it in my own lot. So I was just talking about my mom about we have this large garage, 24 by 24. I'd love to do an ADU on it. I don't want to be landlord. That's not my thing, but I would love to have my family. I've offered other parts of the family come in. We just put first floor laundry. We have laundry on both floors. Maybe somebody could live on the bottom floor. Can't do it now. It's illegal. The other reason I'll say is some self-interest. I'd like to have a habitable world. If you saw Valencia, Spain recently, this is after the hurricane in North Carolina. You just piles and piles, tens of thousands of cars. This is part of that solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bob-Mast. Appreciate you joining us this evening. And next up, don't sit down, Mr. Garin. We have Steve Garin joining us from the NIMS neighborhood. Welcome, sir. You have 3 minutes to provide your remarks.
Hi, I'm Steve. Steve Garin, 1362 Palmer, Muskegon, Michigan. I'm here to say thank you for the last meeting where, in its first iteration, zoning reform was agreed to. I'm hoping that in the second reading, you will stand pat and we can move forward. Again, getting rid of this exclusionary zoning concept that really percolated post-World War II, which went hand in hand with blacklists, redlining, and keeping certain elements of society away from certain elements of society. I think we can reach a more holistic potential for what our neighborhoods look like in a more traditional manner. And so I would again encourage you to vote yes tonight. It wasn't lost on me last week, though, when I saw an interview with the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, that admittedly stated that even the Fed is limited in its powers and had very limited abilities to help address the housing crisis nationwide, locally. That's us. But he did say that it's incumbent to look at the fact that we don't have much housing stock out there available. And secondly, he keyed in on zoning. That is one thing we can do locally. That's one thing we do have at our disposal at this juncture. I'm quite heartened with some of the concepts that came up by another speaker about the potentials for more localized answers when it comes to financing and, really progressive means to that. And you may hear more of that from Muskegon's own local, Strong Towns chapter. So, but to begin, this tool, I think, will serve us well. Not as a silver bullet, but it gives us the tool that we need without the restrictions of exclusionary housing that we've all been living with since post-World War II in the form of what we have now. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garan. Grateful to have you this evening. All right, that's all of the forms I have for speaking on agenda items. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak on agenda items still? If not, I'm going to go to the phones. All right, seeing none, we're going to go to the phones. That number is 231-724-672.
Oh, sorry.
I'm being silenced now.
Sorry.
That number is 231-724-6721. If you're calling in an agenda item, please announce which item you're speaking on and then your name. And if you are a city resident, which neighborhood you're calling from. And if you're not a city resident, which other township, village, or city you may be calling from. All right, it doesn't sound like we have any callers. All right, we're gonna move on from, yes.
Just the item X we're gonna pull. So
Okay.
before we get to
So
consent.
before we, as we're moving to consent agenda, note commissioners that item X has been pulled from the agenda at this time, and we'll be returning us to at some point in the future. So, of the remaining items, commissioners, are there any that you wish to have removed for separate vote and consideration? Commissioner German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Item Q, R, S, T, U, and V.
U and V, okay. All right, thank you, Commissioner German. Any other items? Commissioner Cochin.
Item B as in boy. H as in Helen. J as in jam.
Thank you, Commissioner Cochin. Commissioner Kilgo?
I don't think there are any letters left.
Not a whole lot.
They were called, so.
They're called, okay. Thank you, Commissioner Kilgo. Vice Mayor St. Clair, Commissioner Gorman, any items? No? All right. I would entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented, noting that item X has already been removed, and then items B, H, J, Q, R, S, T, U, and V separated for separate discussion and vote.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner Kilgo, supported by Vice Mayor St. Clair. Roll call, please.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo,
Yes.
Commissioner German.
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman.
Yes.
Commissioner Cochin.
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item B, beach parking pass price adjustments. Commissioner Cochin.
I move to approve the beach parking pass prices as presented.
Support.
All right, motion by Commissioner Cochin, supported by Commissioner Kilgo. Welcome. Care to introduce yourself and report out on this item?
Sure. I'm Leanne Mikesell. I am the Deputy City Manager. So our parking committee met in October. This is something that we do every year to go over how things went in the paid parking season and talk about what we need to do for the future. We also plan for winter parking bans and those kinds of things, talk about enforcement. And out of that meeting came some recommendations to change our parking fee structure. Part of what we were trying to do is better distribute the visitors and the days of the week that they come. We've all experienced a number of Saturdays that have been particularly busy, where it's very difficult to find a parking place. And so we looked at our placer data, we looked at our data from selling passes at the kiosks, and found that Tuesdays and Wednesdays are our lightest days. Tuesday is lighter, but from the placer data, it looks like the Wednesday visitors are coming from closer to Muskegon. So it's a little bit of a toss-up which day we make more readily, easily, cheaper available. What is in your proposal in front of you is Wednesday, but I think that Tuesday would make sense too. And then you can see the recommendation there for the weekday prices, the weekend prices, and then the season pass prices. There are some other things that we're looking into. We're continuing to look at how we can make buying the passes more digital. So we do have a cell tower and an antenna now. Service still isn't fantastic out there, but we do want to make some forays into having an app or pay by text or something like that. We did discover that there are quite a few scams that are happening with QR codes, so we're a little reluctant to try that. And our parking enforcement group is looking into different companies that can provide the services that we need. We're still gathering price data, but we do have some preliminary information. And then lastly, we're looking at trying to revive a trolley service, and we looked at a couple of different options. One would just be a circulator between all of the paid beach parks, so Cruzy down through Pier Marquette and then over to Harbortown. We noticed that we don't get as many people parking at Cruzy or at Harbortown, and so perhaps if we provide a shuttle that we can determine what that price would be, but then we could get people to park at those other locations and still be able to visit Pier Marquette easily. I could provide more details on that, but.
All right, thank you, Deputy Mikesell. Commissioner Cochin.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming up and working on this as diligently as I know that you guys have been. I was wondering if, Clerk Ann, can you go back to the slide that shows the prices that we're proposing so everyone can see them? I think it's page 13.
It's on the form.
If you just click agenda review item, I think okay.
Hold on. There it
goes.
Yeah, sorry.
There we go. Yeah, I just wanted everybody to be able to see that. So when this was brought up at Legislative Policy Committee meeting, I definitely had a lot of pause in regards to increasing our prices. I understand that there's a strong desire to get more money, especially flowing into the parks, because that's really important. But I also didn't want to see us making things so expensive that people couldn't afford to come to the beach. And I'm not just thinking about our residents, because obviously all of our residents get free parking passes.
Correct.
But I'm also thinking about our neighbors next door, the Heights, the Shores, Roosevelt Park, people in the county who contribute to this area financially and with their presence in the community. And I just wanted to make sure that we were doing something that was going to be helping them. And so when I saw this amended fee structure, I felt much more comfortable with it, being the fact that we're giving a completely free day to go to the beach. Wednesday, is in the middle of the week, but it does allow for evenings for people to come for free, and then the reduced rate during the week. I think that was definitely a positive spin compared to where we originally started. And I think that bringing back the trolley would be a immense thing to come back to the community. I think it would be utilized quite a bit. So I just wanted to highlight that for everybody, and thank you.
Quite welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Cochin. Commissioner Kilgo.
Yes. I echo Commissioner Cochin on that sentiment. I really like the Wednesday free day. If it was me personally, I would make our season pass more expensive, which is not a popular sentiment, but you can buy the season pass or you can pay per day. And depending on how many times you visit us, it's probably going to be cheaper to buy the season pass. So compared to some of our neighboring lakeshore towns up and down Lake Michigan, our fees aren't outrageous by any means, and lower in most cases also. But I really do like the addition of the free day as we work our way towards summer of 2025. If staff can, look into what it would look like for us to have additional transportation, even if it's just on certain days or during certain events that we may host or something, it would just allow more people to enjoy Pure Marquette. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgo. Commissioners, Commissioner German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Deputy Manager Mike Zell, for the report. Looking at the Wednesday, before I forget, I think you mentioned something about possible scams with QR codes, and how often has that happened?
Well, I just, our parking enforcement leader had sent an article that somebody that she knew had shared. And then I did some more research and found it's really a nationwide problem. It's been happening for several years for different communities that have paid parking. It's very easy for somebody to put a sticker on a sign or wherever those QR codes are and have that QR code go to a different site and not ours.
Okay. Probable cause, you probably could imagine why that's happening, because people can't really afford to pay a fee sometimes to go to the beach. And I do like the addition that the city is offering that pass free on Wednesday, which is an incentive to the community. I've always been opposed of paying for parking at the beach anyway. Guess now that we have something in place, and you've worked hard on this over the years, to make it more equitable and inviting for the public. I appreciate that. But yeah, I know the hardship with families, and these are hard times also. But I think this is something that I can support, because we do have something in place, and offering that additional daily pass free for families. I think that would kind of give back to our community. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner German.
Yeah.
Vice Mayor St. Clair, Commissioner Gorman, anything to ask or add?
I would just say that I appreciate the increased revenue that this will bring into the parks that aren't along Lake Michigan. I think that it's really easy to focus all of our attention and dollars on the shoreline because it's beautiful and it's spectacular and it's special. But so is Smith Ryerson, and the folks that live in Nelson have the same right to access a good, well taken care of park as the folks in Beechwood Bluffton do. And I like how this both utilizes a beautiful resource while providing free public access and building in additional funding to support the whole city park system. So I like it.
Here. Thank you, Vice Mayor St. Clair. Commissioner Gorman? Anything to ask or add at this time?
Seriously, because I'm really. Thank you, staff, for being flexible and open to a new opportunity. And yeah, I echo everything. I'm very excited about this.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for your work on this. I continue to support beach, our paid parking program at our beaches. As Vice Mayor St. Clair said, this is an important revenue, not only to support our beaches, and they are very costly to maintain, and the upkeep and the capital investments that are necessary there, but just as critically, an important revenue source for all of our park system. We don't have a park millage, and this is a critical piece to make investments across our park system, which is a expansive park system and one that we are catching up on in terms of the necessary investments and for maintenance and improvements to our park system. So this is important. The other piece, though, is with this higher revenue, as we discussed at the LPC meeting, the Legislative Policy Committee meeting, is the prospect of potentially using this revenue, particularly the increased in revenue from the higher costs or the charges, is for new transportation options, potentially. One of which is the tram service, more localized tram service at the beach, so that we could identify off-site parking places, whether that is Harbortown parking lot or that's the cruise parking lot or somewhere else, that we can stage parking and then transport people to the other different beach areas and amenities that are down there. The other piece is the shoreline circulator or shoreline shuttle that is more regional, not necessarily localized right there, and one that I had at the time of the LPC meeting had indicated that I certainly was comfortable going up $30 a year, but for $40 a year, I really want to see that shoreline shuttle service added to further justify it for me or to support it for me. So I know that we're still in progress and working on that in terms of getting cost estimates and how to operate that. I do think that's really important. Having something that does hug the shoreline, that goes from our East End, Jackson Hill neighborhood, through our downtown, through the Nims neighborhood, through Lakeside, through Pure Marquette and back. I think that's so important for a number of different reasons, one of which to better integrate all of our different shoreline neighborhoods so people can experience the wonder that we have across our city, but as another modes of transportation for our residents to get to the beach, particularly our East End residents. I grew up on the east side of the city. Us folks over there did not get to the beach a lot or get to Lake Michigan a lot. So having that additional transportation option is important for our residents, as well as any visitors that might be staying downtown or elsewhere to get to the beach. But also importantly, there's there's going to be costly to provide that service, which hopefully we can support it through this fee increase, but it could potentially also be accretive to our net revenues collected as well, because if more of our residents are using that service to get to the beach rather than parking at the beach, that leaves parking spaces available for people that are going to be paying for those spots. So it could be beneficial in that way as well. So just want to reiterate that my support for pursuing that localized tram as well as a regionalized shoreline shuttle service. And then I really do like that we are carrying forward that idea from the LPC meeting of a free day. That is nice. And then we're still diligently working towards that so far elusive digital-based paid parking system. I think that is going to be nice, not only for the end user, the convenience of the end user, but also will help alleviate some of the demands on our staff in administering that program and in issuing the stickers and whatnot. And so thank you for your work on continuing to explore that and trying to move that forward. And thank you for bringing this to us tonight so that we can not only support our beaches and continuous improvements there, but throughout our whole park system and potentially new transportation options as well. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Cochin.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item H, Taste of Muskegon Transition Agreement, Lab Events. Commissioner Cochin.
I authorize staff to enter into an agreement with Lab Events for the rights to Taste of Muskegon.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner Cochin, supported by Commissioner German. Welcome, sir. Care to introduce yourself and report out on this item, please?
Yes, Kyle Krajewski, Director of Parks and Recreation. So we had a work session in May. This is one of the items. And at that time, staff was authorized to begin negotiations into a contract with Lab Events. That was for 2 events. We have since scaled it down to 1 on a mutual agreement. A lot of that comes down to timing and an abundance of caution so that both events are successful and that so the city is going to be continuing with Lakeshore Art Festival. So as discussed previously, there's with this agreement, Lab has requested $25,000 for seed money for this event. So that would help with seed money, with assets, also, you know, a rainy day fund it got half rained out last year, so it definitely has the ability to be a rough event if the right weather comes through, or if the wrong weather comes through, really. So both parties have been working on this document for a couple months now. Really the outline, the effort is to have a smooth and efficient transition of ownership. So there's some of the considerations that you'll see in the agreement. It's a pretty short agreement. There's a 2-year clawback of $12,500 per event that the city would recoup if the events did not go forth. The 2-year assessment period of that gives the Parks and Rec Department the ability to really assess and adapt to any hardships that Lab Events might have during that time. And we felt comfortable with 2 years. You know, there's many unknowns in the event world, so we wanted to see the nonprofit succeed. We wanted to set them up for success, and you know, maybe not necessarily carry out the same event we've always run. We want them to be able to grow it, to be able to, you know, change it, and really to encourage the growth of a nonprofit, and try not to handcuff them to running this exact event, the exact footprint that the city of Muskegon has been doing since 2018. So we worked along Lab. We worked alongside Lab for Taste of 2024. All 3 members that represent Lab volunteered over 100 hours each for this event. So, you know, that's why we do feel comfortable with the 2-year clawback. They've put in a lot of time and effort, and it's a group that's been involved in the event since it first started nearly 20 years ago. So, you know, that was, you know, that's our view on that. The majority of the $25,000 will also be for assets that build up this amazing event. So there's also an option of purchase. There's first right of refusal through 2028, where we could recoup those assets for $1. And so, end of the day, trying to set this document up to align with the goal that our strategic goal has for our city to enhance parks and recreation events and programs. And this helps us out a lot, being able to pass off this event and being able to run one of the events as well. We've had a lot of talks with nonprofits in the school lately about running summer rec programs, and that's a priority for us, and this agreement helps us to fulfill that goal. Lab is excited to start coordinating this event. They are here if we have any additional questions, and you know, I'd like to hear feedback from the commission on the contract.
Thank you, Director Karczewski. Commissioner Cochin.
Yes, thank you, Director Karczewski. First off, I wanted to I'm going to try to do this as eloquently as possible. I wanted to let the folks at home know that when this issue originally came up, that I had some concerns specifically about us selling our event to another organization. At the time, it was 2 events, and there was more concern in regards to the arts event, since they didn't have experience in art, but do have experience running other events in the city of Muskegon, including the Burning Foot Beer Festival, which has gained popularity, minus a couple of issues here and there. It's been pretty easygoing. I think my big concern at this moment is I'm still a little hung up over us paying them for the event. I believe that they're gonna get the assets, which typically in business, and I could be wrong, but I believe typically in business, when you take something over from another business, you have to pay that business for those items, for the assets. And I don't think it's very common for you to ask the other business to also give you additional funds. So I'd like to ask you today, how common is it that a municipality gives sums like $25,000 to another business to have them take over their event or business, essentially?
I can't speak to other municipalities that during these same situations. Really, I mean, it was requested, and we discussed it as a commission at length a while ago, and they're inheriting a lot of risk with running this event, taking it from us, stepping up to the plate, and taking the event over. They they will happily come up here and give some points on why they request that, but I really can't speak for other municipalities. As far as this agreement, we've talked about building up the infrastructure. I know they're getting some assets, but if you look at the asset list, they're pop-up tents and a lot of small things, and they want to grow and make this a more profitable event. As you can see, the expenses are about $100,000 and revenue is around $140,000. However, that doesn't take into account salaries and time spent on it. And like I had said, they worked at least 100 hours each last year, and I mean that money's not recouped. And the city spends I'd say a quarter of the rec coordinator's time on it, which far goes above and beyond $25,000.
Mm-hmm. So in your expert opinion, you feel that the sum that we would be paying them would be less than the amount that we would spend for staff time?
Yeah, far less.
Okay.
And then the other side of that is what do we get by no longer having this event and freeing up our rec coordinators to provide summer rec programs. So there's that side of it as well.
Can you elaborate more on that, what we would get?
Yeah, summer's a long ways away. I don't want to promise exactly what the program looks like, but we, met with the school last week about all the opportunities we have to help out with summer recreation for the kids in the youth in Muskegon. There's several events for adults on the weekends in Muskegon. Pretty much every weekend of the year you can find an event for adults to have fun, but there's not many events and activities for kids. There's a handful of youth programs, and we'd like to see more. We sampled some summer camps this year. We worked with Boys and Girls Club and YMCA to hold 2 summer camps. We are about to go into a rec master plan to see the exact needs for recreation for the community, and I just would broadly say you would definitely see more youth activities for low to no cost for our residents.
I do like to hear that, and you know that.
Yeah, well,
I think that is important that we have low to no cost activities for our youth in the community. I think that serves a dual purpose. I think it helps our community grow, and I think it also helps us reduce crime. So I think that that's a good thing overall. What would you say if the school asked for $25,000 to take on the Parks and Rec portion? Would that be something that we would entertain?
If the school asked for $25,000, I would come to the commission and discuss it with you all, because it wouldn't be my decision.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Welcome.
Sorry. I'm just struck by that last question. I was
Yeah.
clarification. Just curious. This is more of my curiosity. And just for clarification, the prospect of the school system asking for $25,000, or the prospect of the school system asking to run this event, and we give them $25,000.
No, the prospect of the school system taking over some of the parks and rec activities in the summers, and then us paying them $25,000 to do that.
Oh, gotcha.
That's what I
They're actually looking to us to do more of the things. So okay.
That's what I want clarification
Yeah,
on.
at that joint school board meeting, were more interested in how can we step in and do these things. So okay, thank you for that clarification. Commissioner German, as the supporter of this motion, do you have anything to ask or add at this time?
I don't have anything at this
All right,
moment.
Thank you. Anybody else on the commission? Vice Mayor St. Clair.
Thanks. So when we talked about this at the work session, I asked you what you would do with the time that you could free up from the staff person, and you talked a little bit about that today. But for me, I don't believe it is a good use of our very precious human resources to spend on a one weekend event, roughly 25% of your staff time. Taste is awesome and I love it and I go every year that I can, but that's outside of our mission as a municipality. And I did not realize how big of a drain that was on the Parks Department without a lot of payoff. And as we are trying to build up a Parks and Rec program, emphasis on recreation, because we've already got the parks, but to be able to staff that and do the sort of work that we could do if we had the human capacity, to me it makes perfect sense to pass that off to a community partner to take this event on. It's going back home, basically. Some of these folks were the ones that originated this event in Muskegon. And Muskegon's only had it for roughly 5 years, the city, if that, because COVID year it didn't really happen in the same way. I like the fact that we were able to kind of step in and scoop it up as it was falling apart, but I don't think it's ours to hold for the long term, and I think it makes every sense for that to go back out in the community so that we have the capacity to save something else in the future if we need to stabilize it, or that we can really focus on our primary mission with those very precious staff hours. I don't have any concern about the seed money. It makes sense to me. Taste is not really a super profitable event, but it's expensive to start up something new, and if we want it to be successful, it makes sense to me that we would make that investment back into the community that could carry it on. So I'm really comfortable with this agreement.
Thank you, Vice Mayor St. Clair. I see follow-up.
Yeah, I have one follow-up
Before I go to follow-up, anybody else? Nope. Okay. Follow-up, Commissioner Cochin.
Yes, Director Karchevsky. I remember when we were discussing the two events back in May. We were discussing the revenue made from the art fair as well, and it refresh my memory if I'm wrong, but wasn't it that the art fair typically runs a deficit?
I can't speak to before I got here. However, there was a event organizer that was paid and other event staff that was paid, and when it came under the Parks Rec Department, we no longer paid that. We did it in-house with our coordinators, and we made about $40,000 last year off of it.
Oh, we did. Okay, so we
So
weren't.
that would be the plan going forward. LAF will help us fund recreation programs in our Parks and Rec Department.
Okay, so we weren't relying on the money from Taste Muskegon to keep the art fair going, correct?
Yeah, they were both ran together in the same month, but they don't really have any, they don't benefit each other. They were
Okay,
two
I just
separate-
wanted confirmation because I was remembering that. I was like, oh, wait a second, we don't want to hamper ourselves. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gochin.
And to that point, that's, running just one instead of two, we put a lot more effort and emphasis on the efficiency and profitability, and can really, embrace it and really make it the best event possible and help it to subsidize our department as much as possible.
Thank you. I think it is sensible to transition this event elsewhere. We took it on out of necessity because we did not want to see it fall by the wayside. It was an important event that had been going on for many years. It's not returning. If we approve this, it's returning to the folks that had started it in the very, very beginning. So they're very knowledgeable about the event and have been involved with it over the years. And so I have no qualms or questions about the competency and capabilities of who would be taking on this event and be responsible for it going forward. I think that we, as a city, have done a good job as being good stewards of this event while it's been housed. Initially with the city clerk's office, that's where it went to start, and was there for a number of years, then moved to the Parks and Recreation Department when we revived our Parks and Recreation Department. And so I just want to acknowledge the great work that the clerk's office had in stewarding that event, as well as continued by our Parks and Rec Department. When we did take this event on, the thought was that it could help support our farmers market and fund capital improvements and needs there. This was discussed at a work session back in May. I thought I'd heard that there were some outstanding funding requests or bills for capital needs at the farmers market. Have those been satisfied, or are they still outstanding?
No, I still have, I left $20,000 in there for startup cash for them that we still need to grab. And then there's still some smaller things that were approved that came in lower. And so I still have some money left from that I can work with finance to find out exactly how much, but they're sitting in the DDA.
Okay, so with this $25,000 transfer, which I think it is sensible to provide seed money because we don't want to set them up for failure. We want them set them up for success. And this was seed money. We inherited some level of seed money, and we've grown the seed money for this event and used it year over year. But I do want to be cognizant of how we initially expected this event to support and be used, and make sure that the farmers market has gotten its funding as requested. So even with this transfer of $25,000, there is sufficient funds remaining that will be able to satisfy those outstanding capital needs. Someone, Mr. Manager, or Director Karczewski?
I can't speak to the DDA balance, but I do know that last year Taste made 30, LAF made 50. That right there could support the transition in the farmers market.
So two things. The 25,000 is coming out of the DDA budget, not out of because the DDA is the fiduciary, and those funds are held kind of in a fund accounting purpose in the DDA budget. When we began these discussions, the clerk's office provided a list of the improvements that they needed, and we based the money set aside for the farmers market based on that. So that money was still there, and then that was used to determine the other flexibility we had for the seed money conversation. So that happened first, and we did it would have been last fiscal year, but because it's DDA dollars, those carry over as far as being earmarked or allocated, however you want to say it. So that money is still sitting there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that will get paid and addressed. That's not impeded at all by this agreement. Okay. I'll first say
that hasn't been spent, I should say. The money that portion that hasn't been spent will still be sitting there.
That can be tapped.
Not the whole nest egg, because some of it has been spent. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I'll support this agreement. I do think it's good. I personally would have preferred a little bit longer time period and beyond 2 years. I don't think that the people taking this on are going to walk away from it after 2 years. But in my mind, I just would have liked greater assurance built into the agreement that it'd be continuing beyond, and I'm sure it will. But just having that in there, a longer time period. Personally, I would have preferred a longer time period in there. But I think it's good enough as is. I think it's important that we do transition this, and it is going into good hands. Transition sooner than later. This will free up staff time within Parks and Rec to be focused on what the mission of Parks and Rec is, being able to provide more recreation opportunities for our residents, and particularly, as you said, a focus on our youth throughout the summer. So I think that's going to be great, not only in terms of the value provided to our community from that, but also the freed up costs on ourselves having to maintain this event.
It has a high level standard, definitely. And after being boots on the ground, we met in May. That was before I worked in June. And with our small staff, we were for 3 days straight, 6 a.m. to midnight. It was, and then cleanup day, which is fun as well. So yeah, it's a heavy lift, and that's, you know, I do feel comfortable, and I appreciate them stepping up, taking the risk.
Thank you. Thank you for working on this, Director Karcheski. Would, before we go to vote, would the folks that are going to be taking this on with lab events, would you like to address the commissioner at all? You don't have to. I'm just giving you the opportunity. No? Okay. Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Yes, Commissioner Cochin?
Quick question. I'm still waiting for my phone to load so I could see the exact wording in the contract. But could we make an amendment to increase the clawback clause in the contract, or no? Because I also feel that way as well. I was a little hesitant about that.
So technically, yes, we do have that ability. I'm a little hesitant about making amendments to draft agreements that have been proposed to us. We could have refer it back to staff with input on, you know, if we wanted to see something changed and why, and share that as we refer it back to staff so they can navigate that, and if there's an opportunity to amend it and bring it back to us. But I would be leery of amending the actual contract at this point at the dais.
Okay.
So, Mr. Manager?
Yeah, I guess my comment on that would be that the staff worked with Lab to prepare this agreement, and the agreement's before you as it is, and so generally we would just ask for an up or down vote on the agreement as presented.
Okay. All right.
So
I see you thinking. Yeah. Commissioner German, no?
No,
Okay.
no. I'm just taking it all.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had a
No,
comment.
just- yeah,
All right. If there's nothing else, roll call, please.
Commissioner Cochin?
No.
Vice Mayor St. Clair?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item J, amendment to the professional services agreement between Safebuilt, Michigan LLC, and the City of Muskegon.
I
Commissioner
move.
Cochin.
I move to authorize the amendment to the professional services agreement between the City of Muskegon and Safebuilt Michigan LLC, ending on December 31st, 2025, and authorize staff to sign it.
Support.
I have a motion by Commissioner Cochin, supported by Commissioner Kilgo. Welcome, sir. Care to introduce yourself and report out on this item, please.
Good evening, Director Public Safety, Tim Kozel. Appreciate the opportunity to be here to speak about this amendment to the agreement. As stated in the actual agenda review form, this initial agreement started back in 2016, December, and it actually expires in December of this year. Earlier this year, we started contemplating having internal discussions about our building department, and I began some discussions with Safebuilt about the possibility of just doing a one-year extension on the current agreement. And I looked at that through a couple different lenses. One big lens is the amount of projects that we have going on in the city right now, the large projects that we have going on in the city that our building department is involved with. It'd be a big undertaking for another entity to come in to take over those projects, and I think we would have too much of a pause in those. It's not an excuse, but it's something that I really considered when we were looking at this. I also felt with the work that our team does upstairs is very substantial. The amount of permits that they have done, the amount of inspections they've done is pretty substantial. looked at it in that aspect. There was some things that came up that the city manager and myself sat down with upper management of Safebuilt to try to look at how we can continue to do things better as far as communicating with the city and issues that come up with in the building department. So with that being said, I think that we're at a good place with that. The city manager and I, and what we have worked out with that, reports that we're going to be getting on a monthly basis from Safebuilt. So I've looked at in the agreement itself to try to modify it a little bit. One of the things that you see, what you have in front of you, is they were paying a very minimal amount for rent for the square footage that they have upstairs. So I looked at that, looked at the average that we have in the city. I also asked Director Vanderhyde for some input on that. I felt very comfortable with a number that I pitched to them. They pitched a number back, and in conversation with Dan, we felt very comfortable with that. So it went up, I'd say substantially, you know, from I think it was right around $750 a month to now $4,972 and some change. Also, right now, we currently have a 18% recoup on fees that come in that the city stays with the city, and I've asked to move that up to 20, and then they would retain. Try to help us sustain our building department because those fees do have to stay within the building department and those are the two major areas. You also see in the amendment that as our projects get bigger, that the amount of money that would get back as those costs go up. Let's say, for instance, our Shaw development that's coming, you know, that's been in front of you. Those are going to be a lot larger. We would be able to. It goes to 75%, so we retain 25% on those larger type projects. That's something that we had a long discussion on and tried to come into agreement and say felt very comfortable in those different areas. So I welcome it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Director Crozo. Commissioner Cochin.
I wanted to bring this up because I thought it was important that, first of all, people see that we are looking at the Safebuilt contract renewal, and to also bring up what you brought up, that there has been a few issues with communication, and that I think better communication would probably benefit the city and the citizens and Safebuilt, honestly. And so I just wanted to share that I do support that we are working on this issue and looking at it and not just sweeping it under the rug, and also that we are going to be raising those rates and fees. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Cochin. Commissioner Kilgo.
Thank you. Chief, I've sat on the HBA, which Safebuilt, some Safebuilt people, you were on the HBA. Safebuilt does a good job for Muskegon, but at the same time, I've been approached by several constituents complaining about Safebuilt. Do we have a current system in place where if a citizen had a complaint about Safebuilt, and if we do have a current way that someone could file a complaint, what would that be?
Currently, through our meetings, we've developed a program so if there's complaints that come in that are within the staff, they're then reported to Mr. Spindler, and then he addresses those. Those are then outlined and then reported back to us monthly. So if there is complaints, and that we know what's going on, that's going on internally, and things that are being addressed. There's something that's a little bit higher up, and that would come to myself or come to the city manager to take a look at.
Okay. Because there's fees involved. We have big developers who are doing big projects. They're going to pay fees, but then we have regular citizens or regular residents. Hey, I want to do this project, and I have to pull a permit for it. And then we have citizens who try to do stuff, and they're supposed to pull a permit, and they don't. And that's one of the reasons why we have Safebuilt in place, so that nobody gets hurt, things are safe, so on and so forth. For the things that are legitimate, hey, that person didn't pull a permit, by all means, you know, they get fines or they, you know, stop work order, hey, you got to pull a permit, all that stuff. But for the people who do pull the permits the right way, I just want to make sure that we're fostering development, fostering renovation, fostering work to be done, as opposed to, hey, I'm not going to go into Muskegon and renovate a house, or I'm not going to go in Muskegon and do A, B, and C because I got to deal with unnecessary obstacles. So with the 1-year renewal, great, because we do have some big projects coming up, but I just want us as a whole, as a city, not just Safebuilt, but the public safety director, staff, management, to just kind of keep an eye on, are things running smoothly with citizens as well as the big developers and stuff when it comes to Safebuilt, so that so it can be a well-oiled machine, and we can, hey, pull a permit, get it done, and everything goes smoothly. It's just, I hear from a lot of constituents and people in that realm that have to work with Safebuilt, that sometimes they run into unnecessary hurdles, or they don't get, they file for a permit, but they don't get it in time. It takes an exorbitant amount of time to get a permit for something. So I just want to make sure that we're running things smoothly upstairs with them.
I appreciate that. I think that, and your comment that it's not only within our building department, but it's throughout the city that we also have to have those checks and balances. I do know that Safebuilt works diligently with everybody that comes, small or large, to try to get their projects done. I can tell you that a lot of the projects and a lot of the work that's being done is done prior to the permits being pulled. There's a lot of conversations that are being done trying to help our developers, trying to help our citizens, trying to get done. When I come in there, which I come in there on a daily basis, there's conversations with our citizens to try to help them. I'm not there to just to try to get the money and then I'll give some answers, but there's a lot of work that's being done to try to help our developers and our citizens get their work done. Yes, there's hiccups. We have them in all our divisions, and they're addressing those. Sometimes it's a little more pronounced because it's my project. I want to get my kitchen done, right? But I know that they are working diligently on that. There are checks and balances that are in place.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kilgo. Commissioners, any other? Commissioner German.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Chief Kozel, for the report. And this extension. Just a little history. Working with Safebuilt, I think communication is essential. And I've heard things in the past leading up to 2024 where citizens and Safebuilt, before we contracted with them permanently, there were some issues and breakdowns in communications. I think that's gotten better. I think for the most part of it, I was able to sit down with some of the Safebuilt employees, along with the former manager at that time and chief of police at that time, to come to a resolution to work inclusively with citizens. So I commend them on their efforts to continue to work with citizens in the community, and also looking at the large development that we have, because we were actually moving up to the momentum that we have now. We didn't have a lot of that momentum at this time, so it's essential also that we have someone in that capacity that could inspect these jobs. So I'm just saying, I'm glad to see that the relationships have gotten better, and then the oversight also, as you stated, checks and balances to make sure things work efficiently.
I appreciate that. I think there's some instances that we can always partner with our commission. I know that Commissioner Kilgo, we've reached out to him on a couple of situations that we're trying to work with a couple of our landlords, and we're trying to make certain that there's always we're always upfront about things. We're not, when there is accusations about things that are going on. So we're trying to always make certain that we're doing the right thing with them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner German. Anything else to ask or add this time, Commissioner? All right. Well, thank you for your work on this. I do think this is an improved agreement in a number of different ways. And also, I want to convey my appreciation to you, Director Kozel, as well as Manager Seifert, for engaging, some of the higher ups within Safebuilt to evaluate how Safebuilt has been functioning here, serving our community, integrates with our staff in different departments, and just its operational effectiveness and efficiency. So I appreciate that intentionality and working to improve how Safebuilt functions and serves our community. Just piggybacking on Commissioner Kilgo with regard to complaints or feedback. I mean, we've all heard complaints, I'm sure. It happens for one reason or another, sometimes justified, other times not. It's just, hey, it's really annoying to have to deal with inspectors, regulators, pay this, that, and the other. However, when we met last year, this was a different commission, but last year during one of our organizational meetings with the commission and staff, one of the things that we talked about was having a systematic feedback program of some kind, whereby anyone who is interacting, any of the public, interacting with Safebuilt has an opportunity to give feedback, and that we're actively soliciting that feedback, good, bad, ugly, whatnot, so that Safebuilt has it, so that they can look at continuous improving, but also that we have it, since they are on contract working for us as a city, and so us looking at that and evaluating how Safebuilt is functioning and performing. So I still think it sounds like the needle has moved somewhat, but maybe not to the extent that at least I had envisioned when we talked about this last year. So maybe there's still room to build on that, though. And we've got a 1-year extension. And so with this extension that's coming to next year, is right now your perspective that this would be put out to bid a year from now?
I think with a lot of items that we have that we discuss within the city, I think it's a situation we're going to wind up coming back to the commission, possibly in the work session, just to discuss this as a full commission. I would come there with in full support of having this continue, but I think it's good to have an overall conversation on it. Right now, I believe this is the best for the city. Safebuilt's been doing a wonderful job, great team up there, love everybody that's up there, so I believe that's in the best interest to continue on for at least a year, then to have a general discussion as we go through the next year, because it's going to take some time to have that discussion.
Thank you, Director Kozel. And of course, putting out a bid or contracting out is not the only option. We could decide to bring it back in-house. Not advocating for that. That is an option, though. I do appreciate your professional opinion on this and your work on updating this agreement. So thank you. All right, unless there's anything else, roll call, please.
Commissioner Gorman?
Yes.
Commissioner Cochin?
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, item Q, amendment to section 404 of the zoning ordinance to remove R2 and R3 districts and to adjust the area and bulk requirements for R1 districts. This is a second reading. Commissioner German.
Oh, yes, thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the request to amend section 404 of the zoning ordinance as presented.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner German, supported by Commissioner Kilgo. Welcome, sir. Care to introduce yourself and report out on this item?
Sure. Mike Franzek. I'm the planning director. This is the second reading, so I'm happy to answer any questions, but this specific item is to allow lots as small as 30 foot wide to be considered developable.
Thanks, sir. Commissioner German, start with you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Director Franzik, for presenting tonight. I know this is our second reading for this zoning, and this zoning is looking to be citywide, correct?
Yes.
Just so the public knows. And we've been here before in some capacity where we talked about foreign-based inclusive zoning, how we could get better use of the property for building a different variety of homes and to make it more affordable. It was brought in front of the commission a couple years ago, voted down both times. And when I asked you at the last meeting, is there a comparison or a similarity to foreign-based and inclusive zoning? You basically said somewhat yes. I talked about how, well, I asked the question, which goes a little deeper, how does it prevent homelessness? These are concerns that my constituents have. Someone brought up meetings that we had in the community. You reached out to the community. You did work. And I think you and your team, for all the efforts that you've done, let that be understood. And nothing against you or your team, but looking at it and hearing from the constituents that it affects, because sometimes zoning it impacts certain neighborhoods differently. We don't have the same problems that we have in other neighborhoods. So my concern is, with all of these changes, amendments to the zoning, how will it impact or make a difference in the pros and cons when it comes to benefiting the community, people that live in certain areas where a lack of divestment, and also when we start to build homes in those areas, how will they be able to sustain and afford these houses when we know the makeup and demographics of these communities?
Sure. So, I believe right now under our current zoning, which only allows single-family zoning and development on wider lots, I think that really restricts us on what we can do in our neighborhood. So it really puts limits on investing, attracting investment, and also does not give the property owner much choice on what they want to do with their land. So not only will it, should it bring down prices moving forward, there's going to be more housing options, more housing types, and more product available. And it's also going to help current property owners build generational wealth, which is something we've talked about a lot in the past. And this is going to give the power back to those property owners to decide how they want to use their property, whether it's adding on a second unit, putting on an accessory dwelling unit, whether they want to rent that out or just have a family member living in there. It's going to give people a lot more options what they can do with their own properties.
Okay, and I totally agree. Now, that's more or less the numerator. Now, let's talk about the denominator, where we have the character and makeup of the neighborhoods and how we got here due to lack of investments in some of these neighborhoods, redlining, and so on. When I talk about the zoning and the makeup of the character of the neighborhoods, with high density, we will have more, we'll have overcrowding with a lot of these neighborhoods, correct?
No, I don't believe so. I think the way we have written the code is to address some of those concerns we've had in the past with some of the houses that were what some people would call carved up into too many units, where you had someone on a 30-foot wide lot, formerly single-family house carved up into 6 units. That's what caused overcrowding, and we've come up with a code, we believe, to address that. And missing middle housing, duplexes, triplexes, these already exist in most of these neighborhoods, in the inner city neighborhoods near downtown. We have a lot of those, and they were previously allowed, and some of them were built for that purpose, and some of them were rehabbed to create additional units. So somewhere in the 80s and 90s, when we had a down zoning, it took away that ability. But for many years in Muskegon, you were always allowed to build with different housing choices.
One last question, because I'm quite sure others may want to speak. With how the code is written now and the development that's occurring within these, in the city of Muskegon, when we have some development and then we zone these areas in increments, that seems to be working okay. My question would be, why the actual urgency to do this citywide?
Well, I think the demand is there, and our housing study shows that we need these housing units. We need additional 3,000 housing units by 2027, and by doing it everywhere, it puts everybody on a level playing field. I believe in the past, you could say we're kind of picking winners and losers for people who want to come up and say we should be able to do it. They're not allowed to do it over here. Now, I think it was a good idea that we kind of piecemealed it here and there at first to show that it could work, and I think we've had positive results in the areas. So I think other people are noticing that, and they want those same opportunities.
Okay, thank you. And that was my thought. I mean, because as you stated, it is working, and yeah, that was my thoughts for now. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner
Yeah.
German. Commissioners, anything else to ask or add at this time? Commissioner Kilgo.
Thank you. Just from some things that are said, I understand this is a second reading, but I'm passionate about this city and I want to see great things happen for this city. So just some of my thoughts, and thank you for your time this evening, Director Franzik. Nationwide and here in the city of Muskegon, many formerly redlined and segregated neighborhoods continue to suffer from disinvestment. These zoning changes are a great opportunity to reinvest in our inner city neighborhoods. I take time out of my own schedule to offer free home buyer classes, and there are other nonprofits around West Michigan who offer similar services. Not to anger any of the animal rights activists, but there's an old saying, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And I would encourage a specific local nonprofit not to try to strong arm this municipality into giving them 50 or 60% of their housing stock. When the city of Muskegon is offering not only affordable housing, but also affordable rentals. We are working with big developers and we are working with small minority developers too to build these houses here in our city for this housing crisis that we have. I just want to thank the city manager. I want to thank our director of development services, Mr. Elcombe. I want to thank our planning director. A change in zoning reform will lower the barrier to entry for all residents. This will also be more opportunity for smaller developers to help our city grow. With this zoning reform being citywide, it actually stops the perpetuation of segregation. So it's not just focused on one neighborhood. This will allow opportunity citywide for all of our residents. Thank you.
You're here. Thank you. Well said, Commissioner Kilgo. Vice Mayor St. Clair.
Thank you. I might be misremembering, and please correct me if I'm wrong. I've been on the commission for just about 3 years now, and I know we've been having a zoning conversation that entire time. It was happening while I was running because I went to a bunch of meetings that were community engagement sessions about the zoning reform that was being proposed at that time. It is not my recollection that this came to the commission for a vote. My recollection is that it explicitly did not come to the commission because there was a clear message from the community that they weren't happy with the way that it had been written a year ago. It was supposed to be on the agenda and it got pulled because it wasn't right yet. The next year was spent reworking things, and now it is coming to us as a citywide proposal rather than a neighborhood specific. Am I remembering that correctly?
That is correct.
So we have not voted this down before in at least the last 3 years.
Correct. We did bring it forward one time, probably just prior to that, where it failed, but the previous time we did not actually come to a vote.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it has not come to a vote at the City Commission during your tenure,
So-
Vice Mayor St. Clair. It almost came to vote in December of 2021, just before you arrived, and then it was pulled from the agenda in December of 2021. A version of it had come some many months before that, to the city commission and was voted down. So a version of this in a subsection of our city was voted down. That was probably 4 years ago.
Right.
And so, but staff's been
So-
diligent in engaging the community and reworking and retooling it and bring something forward.
So there has been 3, closer to 4 years of work and community engagement and discussion and reworking and trying again on zoning.
You take this all the way back to when we were first bringing form-based code into Nelson. That was 2015. Some parcels were adopted then, and then we tried to expand in 2017, and been holding community input meetings every year for the better part of 8 years.
So this isn't a surprise or something that we haven't spent a lot of time researching or talking about and doing community outreach and trying to come up with the best possible solution for all parties. This isn't something that came before us and we rejected. This is a new attempt at building something that is going to move us forward.
The new amended attempt.
Yeah, it's a new approach, and I think it's significant that it is citywide, that it's uniform across all of our residential districts, and that potentially, if we approve this tonight, boldly moving away from single-family zoning and not having single-family zoning in the city of Muskegon. And as it was alluded to during public comment, although no one said it in this terms, but I will, single-family zoning, the origins of single-family zoning are rooted in racism and segregation. And so I think it is important that we leave that in the dustbin of history and move forward in a way that does provide housing flexibility, housing choice. And we have heard, there's been a lot of talk, throughout the years and even as part of this about the empty lots and the vacant lots and the new options will be available with the vacant lots. But personally, I think it's just as important the impact and benefit to all of our existing built on lots where we live, because it creates new opportunity for us as residents in terms of how we use our property, and does give new potential income streams and wealth creation opportunities for us existing residents if we want to develop a duplex on our property or add an accessory dwelling unit on our property, maybe bring in additional family members or rent it out to create a new income stream to support our family well-being. So I think that's very important as well. But Commissioner Koshin, did I see you?
Yes, I did have a couple of questions. Director Franzik, so my question to you is, with the item Q that we're currently looking at, with changing the zoning to citywide R3, if we do not do that, are we able to still have the ADU zoning and the duplex/triplex zoning?
Yes, this would only affect single-family houses on lots as 30 foot wide.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and the other question I had was in regards to something that somebody in the audience had mentioned about universal housing. If we do this kind of zoning, what is the chance that we see this change allowing universal housing?
Unfamiliar with that term.
So, like in the UK, they have, I can't remember what the term of it is now that I've started to say it. They basically have housing that you can rent from the government. It's at a reduced rate. You're guaranteed to be able to get it.
I don't think that would change anything. However, if that's something the government was offering, there would be more choices on the types of housing.
Mm-hmm. So you don't necessarily see us moving in that direction with this. Is that accurate or no?
I don't know if that's anything the commission's discussed, but this would not have any effect on it other than allowing more housing choices.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So that is all of the the questions that I necessarily have right now. What I would like to say though is that when I was running for my seat, I was hearing about the zoning changes, and there was concern in regards to the zoning changes, and people were upset about the idea of form-based code. And while this is not exactly form-based code, I'm still hearing from a lot of people that they don't necessarily like this. There's been some people who say that they support the other initiatives that we have on the agenda later on tonight, but that changing this zoning is not something that they necessarily support. And I have heard what Commissioner Kilgo and Mayor Johnson have said, and some of our audience members have said in regards to the previous goal of single-family housing. I don't feel like that is the goal anymore at this point in time, and I definitely don't support where that was originally created for, but I do have to listen to my constituents when they're telling me that this is not necessarily that they would like to see. They would rather see other things instead, and so I don't think that I can support this at this time.
I'm sorry, they'd rather see what? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
See what?
You said they'd rather see. I didn't catch.
I don't think I said that.
The other items that were considered.
Oh, they'd rather see the other items. Okay.
Yes.
I didn't catch the last.
Okay.
What they'd rather
Earlier
see.
on. Gotcha.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you, Commissioner Cochin. Any other comments or questions at this time? Follow up, Commissioner. Well, just before I give you follow up, Commissioner Gorman. Commissioner Gorman, you have anything to add? Okay. Commissioner German.
Oh, yes, thank you, Mayor. You know, I lived in Muskegon, born and raised here all my life. I've seen the segregation, I've seen the racism, I've seen the disparities. Unlike some of the other commissioners that have not lived here all of their life, but born and raised. So that gives me an advantage to a perspective of what this city looks like. Segregation was mentioned. If you look at the Brown University study of 2011, it talks about Muskegon and Northern Shores, one of the most segregated cities in Muskegon County. Now, I said this publicly before, it took a lot of backlash, but hey, facts and data don't lie. How we got here is due to the segregation and disparities and lack of investments in certain areas, particularly for years, Jackson Hill, Angel, and those areas. And I see and I commend again, Director Francis, what you and your team is doing to try to solve some of the issues. And as you stated before, it doesn't solve the problem. But looking at the fact, when you stated that, when I mentioned doing some of the zoning and development in increments, seems to be a more effective solution to how these areas are being developed. The Nelson area was more like a pilot program, I think, when we zoned that form-based code at that time. But due to the fact of doing that, I've heard repeatedly from citizens in their communities, and I had to get on one commissioner and correct him about it before, because these people are being priced out, pushed out, and don't have anywhere to go, and they're homeless because of the inflation in rent. We have no rent control. We have no eviction laws or anything like that to combat any of these things. So my take would be, if we were to do this type of zoning, what type of protection do we have for our citizens to ensure that this doesn't happen? Because it's happening in some of these neighborhoods. And gentrification was one of the things that I definitely talked about and that I didn't want to see. But when you have this mass development like this in certain areas, it's inevitable. So my question is, what contingency plans do we have if we do vote for a zoning such as this citywide?
Well, I believe this recommendation is to combat that. I believe some of the things you touched on are because of single-family zoning policies. And what we're trying to do is get rid of that, so it is more on a level playing field and people are not restricted out of neighborhoods. So I believe this is the more holistic approach to allowing everybody to utilize their property the same way. And one of the main criticisms that we heard from the last initiative was that it was only being selected for a few neighborhoods and that everybody wanted to see. The major complaint is that people wanted to see it affected just as much on the west side as it would be on the east side, is the main comment that I heard. So this approach would be the most equitable and most equal for everybody and in our district to have the same rights.
Speaking of equitable, did we ever zone the property on Jefferson Street? That was an issue at one time when we zoned that area in Nelson.
This would affect that neighborhood as well. Now everybody on Jefferson Street would be under the same zoning regulations as everybody else.
Yeah, at this time, I just can't support this, and as I said, I appreciate your efforts and your team's effort, but I just think that there's more that we can do and look at it from an approach where we have solutions to the problems. We can't build our way out of homelessness, and I know this is a little bit off, the scale, because we're talking about the zoning, but it's going to impact the community. It's going to impact residents in these communities, and particularly these residents that can't afford to live in some of these housing units that's going to be built. And that's my major concern right there. So if they were affordable, like some of the other creative developments that I've seen across the nation, that would be great. I could see supporting something where everyone can have a place to live and lay down and a sense of pride and dignity. But to spend the majority of your income on housing and not be able to sustain it and eat, that's going to create a huge problem for a lot of people.
Thank you, Commissioner
Yeah.
German.
Yeah.
Any other follow-up? Commissioner Kilgo.
Yeah, I'd love to just say let's go to a vote, but I wanna share some stuff with our community. If people are having a hard time paying their housing needs right now, with only single family zoning, a zoning change isn't going to change that if they're having a hard time paying right now. But what a zoning change could do is if someone can build an ADU in their backyard, and I know these are separate, we're coming to items Q through V or whatever it is. If someone can build an ADU in their backyard, then they can put someone in there for housing. If somebody can build a duplex or a triplex, they can put someone in there for housing. If we already have a housing emergency, if we have a housing shortage where people are homeless or people don't have certain places to stay, we need to build more housing or create more housing. So without the zoning changes, we'll still have a housing emergency and there will still be people that need homes and housing. With the zoning changes, we'll be able to create more housing, and there will be more housing citywide, from the Jackson Hills and the Angels, possibly Beechwood Bluffton. And I know that they don't want any more houses over there, but the beauty of it is it's possibilities, right? Maybe somebody comes and builds in my backyard. There's actually some land behind my house. Maybe somebody says, hey, we can fit in 20 new houses over there. I might be like, man, I don't want anybody in my backyard. But you know what? It'll be 20 new houses and 20 new neighbors that I have in my neighborhood. So I welcome it. And I welcome us having the opportunity to grow the city and house more people here in the city of Muskegon.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Kilgo. Any other follow-up before we go to vote? Nope. All right. Thank you. I think it is important that we are moving forward in a citywide uniform way. I think it is important that we are not setting ourselves up or putting ourselves in a position where it seems like we are targeting or leaving any particular neighborhood out, and that we are being all inclusive to all of our neighborhoods. And I think it's important to note too that we are not prohibiting people to continue to build single family homes if that's what they choose. The current system is dictating that you only can do single family homes. And now with this, we're giving that opportunity and flexibility where people could do single family duplexes, have an ADU as well, or if they happen to live in a block with alley access way and a large enough lot, they could potentially do a triplex as well. So I think it's important that we are providing that flexibility, that if we do nothing, we will see the worst effects of gentrification happen in our city. We are a revitalizing city, we are a growing city, and that if we do nothing, then that will push up, that'll have upward pressure on pricing and lead to displacement. And we do not want to see that displacement. We want to welcome newcomers. We all are newcomers to the city. I born and raised in the city myself. My family showed up here over 140 years ago in the early 1880s. But we are all newcomers at some point to this city, and we want to be a welcoming and accommodating city while ensuring that our existing residents can remain here. And so I think it is important that we act, and we do so in a bold way that provides that flexibility and opportunity for our existing residents and newcomers to our city. So, thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner German,
No.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Cochin,
No.
Vice Mayor St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right. Item R, amendment to section 400 of the zoning ordinance to allow duplexes, triplexes, and accessory dwelling units as principal uses permitted in the single-family residential districts. This is a second reading. Commissioner German.
Oh, yes, thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the amendments to the section 400 of the zoning ordinance as proposed.
Support?
We have a motion by Commissioner German, supported by Commissioner Cochin. I think it's self-explanatory in the motion and in the title of the item, so we won't necessarily need you to report out on this. And we did have a presentation at our last meeting, as well as considerable discussion on the item. But Commissioner German?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Again, thank you, Director Franzik. I feel the same, no change. I haven't seen a solution. It's easy to vote on something if it doesn't impact you in a way that when it comes to any type of change in ordinance. So again, I am opposed to this zoning change. So, and that's my stance. I digress.
Thank you, Commissioner German. Since we last discussed this, has there been any new questions or commentary that you wish to add before we go to vote, Commissioners? No? All right, thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner German,
No.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Cochin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes,
Commissioner Kilgo.
Yes.
Motion passes.
thank you.
And it was updated.
It does reflect.
Yeah, we changed it in the memo. Yeah.
It is in the packet, okay. All right, next item, S, amendment to Article 2 of the zoning ordinance to create a definition for accessory dwelling unit. This is a second reading. Commissioner German.
Okay, thank you again, Mayor. I move to approve the request to the amendment Article 2 of the zoning ordinance as presented.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner German, supported by Commissioner Kilgo. Same situation. We had a presentation 2 weeks ago, considerable discussion on this item. Is there anything that commissioners have to newly ask or add on this item? No, Commissioner Cochin.
Yeah, I just would like a point of clarification for myself and everybody at home. So this motion is strictly just to create a definition of what an accessory dwelling unit is, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Kilgo,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
No.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Cochin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item T, amendment to Article 4 of the zoning ordinance to remove R2 and R3 districts and rename the single-family residential district. This is a second reading. Commissioner German.
I move to approve the request to amend Article 4 of the zoning ordinance as presented.
Support?
We have a motion by Commissioner German, supported by Commissioner Cochin. Same situation as the last item. Is there anything new to ask or add in discussion on this item before we go to vote, commissioners? Seeing none. Oh, Commissioner Cochin.
I just have a quick question, just because I'm kind of curious. So, what would happen if we didn't approve that one?
We would have a title to our zoning chapter that doesn't make a lot of sense. Still allow housing choice, but it would be called single-family residential, which
Would not be fitting.
Okay, thank you.
I thank you, Commissioner Cochin. Unless there's anything else, roll call, please.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
No.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Cochin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And finally, nope, not finally, second to last, item U, amendment to section 2326 of the zoning ordinance to reduce the minimum number of parking spaces for single-family and multifamily dwelling units. This is a second reading. Commissioner German.
Again, thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the amendments to section 2326 of the zoning ordinance as presented.
Support?
We have a motion by Commissioner German, supported by Commissioner Cochin. Same situation as the previous item. Presentation a couple weeks ago. A lot of discussion back and forth on that before we voted. Is there anything new to ask or add at this time, commissioners? No. Yeah, Commissioner
I do,
Cochin.
yes. So, since the last meeting, we had a meeting at my neighborhood association, and part of that is I let them know what's going on with the city and ask them what their thoughts are, and talk to people about these changes. I talked to my neighbors about these changes, and their response was, that doesn't make any sense. And I happen to kind of agree. I would love to see us be in a situation where we can move further beyond a vehicle society. I don't think that that's where we're at right now. And I think being pragmatic and looking at the fact that we are continuing as a city to reduce the sizes of our roads in width and to reduce parking where we are increasing population, this one does not make sense to me.
Thank you, Commissioner Cochin. Anything else to add or ask at this time, commissioners? All right. Would you like an opportunity to address that concern?
So I guess I'd like to start by saying, usually we are getting inundated with calls to add more parking. People that own single-family homes or duplexes or whatever usually are trying to get more parking to the point where we have to have maximums on how much pavement you can have. All this is simply doing is letting people who don't drive or don't want a car or bike or walk to work or try to take the bus or other modes of transportation, this is simply allowing them to say, hey, you don't have to build the parking space that you do not use. So it's not restricting them from being able to have that parking spot for their unit. It's giving them that option.
Just to clarify, you don't have to build more than one if it's a new build. Yeah. So if say you were, starter home and you have one vehicle, you only need one spot, or maybe like Mr. Forensic said, you don't even have a vehicle, but we're still requiring you to have at least one parking spot. That could accommodate your guests, that could accommodate a future homeowner. And what I think we've experienced actually already is builders tend to do larger than that minimum. The demand will dictate what gets built. and what is prevailing. Just provides that flexibility. And I think perhaps to make it a little bit more sensible, because when we think of it as single family, one parking spot, think of it in terms of a multifamily unit. Presently, we're requiring 2 parking spots. So if you've got an apartment complex that's all 1-bedroom apartments, and not everyone, there's only one person living in a number of those, but we're requiring 2 parking spots minimum per housing unit. Now you're creating an excess of parking at that apartment complex, taking away valuable land that could be used for housing in order to provide parking that may not get used. And so that's just another way to look at it beyond just the single family. And so I think the important thing to note is that this is a minimum, not a maximum. We're not limiting somebody to have only a single parking spot at their home. Just saying that's the bare minimum that we are going to require as a city for any new housing developments. So, yes, Commissioner Cochin.
I hear your thoughts on that, and thank you for sharing that, Mr. Mayor. I would like to counter that with sharing an example from not that long ago where when we don't have more requirements for the developer, they will choose less. Case in point, the development that's going in over there in the Pigeon Hill area, where Commissioner Kilgo brought up that there's not any parking for the homes in the back area of that neighborhood. If we, and this is shown not just here in the city, but everywhere across the country, when you let companies regulate themselves, they don't. That's all I got.
Thank you, Commissioner Cochin. We want to clarify that parking situation in Pigeon Hill, that was on-street parking. That was not off-street parking. There was more than 1 parking spot per housing unit for those housing developments. That was a no on-street parking, and that's when we as a commission decided to take action and said, no, you will have on-street parking at that one particular block there, or that one particular section of the development. So I just wanted to provide that clarification. Mr. Manager.
Oh, and just to kind of build on what Director Franzik was saying, generally we get requests for more parking than what the minimum is. And when a developer is going to be building a building, whether it's an apartment complex or retail space, they're going to want to make sure that they can accommodate the folks who are coming to that structure for business or for living. And if we have a greater requirement, as the mayor was pointing out, than is needed, then it's not the best use of space. But developers, business owners are going to want to make sure that they can accommodate those who are there. And that's and as Director Franzik pointed out, that is generally the request that we get.
And I would just share another real-world example in terms of a area around Dowd that we had rezoned to form-based code to accommodate development of duplexes there, and that form-based code zoning did not have any minimum parking requirements. So the minimum was 0. There was none. But the developer, I believe, had 2 parking spots per unit. And so the developer is going to be motivated by what the end user or the buyer wants. And so it'll be the prevailing needs of the market, not necessarily trying to do the bare minimum in the development. But I do understand the concerns, Commissioner Cochin, in terms of the tendency of trying to squeeze costs. And if that was an excess cost, maybe they wouldn't be inclined to doing so. But I think the overriding element there is what the market demands and wants to see. And so we're simply providing a little more flexibility in that regard. But Vice Mayor St. Clair.
Thanks. I have 2 quick points to make on this. I live in a form-based code area that has no minimum parking. I'm in the little section of Lakeside that got zoned years ago, and I didn't even know it until I was on the commission. And I have several neighbors that don't have a driveway, and it has 0 impact on our neighborhood. There is never a parking issue, even though there are many, many short-term rentals in my neighborhood. It's really very much a non-issue in my real world lived experience, where we have no minimum parking. And also, The environmental impact on parking is bad for the community. It is bad for our neighborhoods. We talked about we could build houses on parking lots, but we could also have parkland or yards or spaces that aren't holding cars that are dripping car juice all over the road that, you know, impacts our communities negatively. People are always afraid of change. That's super normal. We are a very car-centric community. And developers will build to meet the need that they have to sell the property. They're not going to build something that isn't going to sell. Like, they do self-regulate, but they're regulated by the almighty dollar. And you are never going to see a developer that builds something that doesn't meet the basic needs of their intended audience. And if that means that they have to do more than the minimum parking, they're going to. But we are seeing more and more small houses that are 1 or 2 bedrooms, and we changed the zoning to allow for people to build very small homes because there is a growing trend towards people aging in place and people not wanting a giant home. People are having children less and less. They don't need a 2-car garage and 4 parking spots in their driveway. If they want that, this will allow them to have that. But I think to require everybody put 2 parking spots in every space, no matter what the actual need is, doesn't make sense on any level to me. And if we're not willing to look at the big picture out of fear of what constituents may or may not understand, you know, I think it's incumbent on us to help people understand that this isn't reducing parking opportunity. It's reducing the absolute minimum that they can have.
Thank you, Vice Mayor St. Clair. Mr. Manager?
Just want to add one quick point too. So the staff's original recommendation was completely get rid of parking requirements altogether, which is a move that a number of cities do. And through the feedback that we got from the public through the public engagement that Director Franzik and his team did, it was determined that the recommendation would be to do 1 parking spot to kind of meet in the middle on that, because there was some concern about that. So I think this is an example where we did hear the feedback that we were getting from the public on their concerns about it, and trying to strike that balance between not overburdening our community with spots that aren't being used and meeting the needs that are there with our objectives for land use development over time. So,
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Commissioner Kilgo.
Thank you. I just want to add, I raised 2 beautiful children here in the city of Muskegon for 18 years. Nope, I wasn't born here, but I've been here for 18 years, and they're gone now. And I'm an empty nester, and I do help people and know people all the time that, like Vice Mayor said, they're downsizing, and they may not necessarily need it. So without us saying you have to do this, I do like this proposed change, because it's not telling them they have to. As we create new properties, they don't have to build 2 parking spaces. There may be a nice development that one looks perfect and it has a built-in garage on it. So even if they have 2 cars, they could park 1 in the garage and 1 on in the driveway or something like that. So I just want to say, as an empty nester, I know I only have 1 car. I only need 1 parking spot. So it makes sense for some of us who aren't a large family anymore, or so.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgo. Coincidentally, I came across a infographic this past week that was showing the shifts in terms of household types. You know, whether 2-person headed household with children or no children, or 1 person with children or no children, and the the fastest growing demographic, and amongst all those was the single person, no children, of that. And I just thought that was interesting to see that change over time. But nonetheless, is there anything else to add or ask before we go to vote? All right, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
No.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Cochin.
No.
Motion passes.
All right. Item V, an amendment to Article 20 of the zoning ordinance to allow the conversion of single-family houses into duplexes and triplexes. This is a second reading. Commissioner German.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the amendment to Article 20 of the zoning ordinance as presented.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner German, supported by Commissioner Kilgo. Same situation. This was presented a couple weeks ago, and we had opportunity for questions and answers then and considerable discussion. Is there anything new that commissioners would like to ask or otherwise add in commentary before we go to vote? Seeing none. Oh, Commissioner Cochin?
I do have a question, because we item, I think it was R. So, if, in similar question to the one I asked before, what would happen if we didn't pass V since we passed R?
Which one is B?
One run now. Is this on the screen? Have we updated the screen?
V is amendment.
Yeah, the
Amendment to Article 20 of the zoning ordinance to allow the conversion of single-family houses into duplexes and triplexes.
Yes, because we passed R, which was amendment to section 400 of the zoning ordinance to allow duplexes, triplexes, and accessory dwelling units as principal uses permitted in the single-family residential districts.
Are you asking what would happen if we didn't pass this one?
Yeah,
Oh.
just kind of curious.
That would mean anything that's zoned form-based code, urban residential, would have to stay single family. There would be no way to convert that to a duplex or triplex.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Commissioner Kilgo?
Yeah, I just want to say I am excited for the city of Muskegon to see some growth with these changes that so far we've passed. And there are a lot of older homes in the city, so looking specifically at Article V, because housing is a circle, families grow, they need more space, families shrink, they need less space. There are some older homes in the city, in all parts of the city that, let's say, need renovation or updates. If that size of that house allows it to be converted into a multifamily house, a duplex or a triplex, they should be able to do that, you know. So I'm just really looking forward to seeing more properties renovated and more properties built here in the city of Muskegon.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgo. Anything else before we go to roll call? Nope. All right. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Cochin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman. Yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to new business. Housing Board of Appeals, demolition of 1101 Pine Street. So that we may proceed, can I have a motion?
I move to approve the demolition of 1101 Pine Street by Melching Incorporated.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner Kilgo, supported by Commissioner Cochin. Welcome back. Chief Kozel, care to report out on this item, please?
Certainly. I think there's been a lot of information has been pushed to the commission on this particular structure and the danger that it imposes to the public. We've actually closed off the streets around the actual structure. Safebuilt's done a wonderful job doing the notifications, following our city ordinance, so that we're making sure we're following our, doing the right things by the public. The person that actually owns it got it, I think, bequeathed to them and that particular owner is frustrated with it, doesn't have the means to be able to do anything with the property to fix it. We haven't actually had an opportunity to go in it because of how unsafe the structure is. So it has been deemed as a dangerous building through HBA back in your packet. Determined in September. He's been given notices per ordinance on removing belongings and also trying to get him to actually do the actual demolition, but he doesn't have the means. So I know that a notice is also, or an email's been sent to the city attorney just to make certain that we're following all what we should be doing in this situation, and we are. We're just asking for authorization so we can move forward. We do have 3 quotes as per policy, and Melching was the best quote at 97.
Thanks, Chief Kozel. Was it Commissioner Kilgo?
Kilgo.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to remember who. Commissioner Kilgo.
Yeah, thank you. So I sit on the HBA, and we have talked about this, but just for the public and the commission, this building is not deemed a historic building, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And with the current danger to it, they would, with the approval of the demolition, they would remove the entire structure, correct?
Correct.
I don't have anything further.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgo. Any other thoughts, questions, comments? Commissioner Cochin.
So when I was looking at the pictures of this building, I definitely agree that this is a dangerous building. You could see the obvious lean, and so I fully support the demolition. I feel really bad that the owner of the property doesn't have the means to handle the situation, but I think for the safety of the community that this does need to be taken care of.
A couple additional, if I may.
Yes, please.
The price is at where it's at because we nobody's been able to go in to look at the possible asbestos, so it's being treated as such, and that's how it's going to go down.
Okay. So in the event, though, I think I read that once they access it, if they realize that there's no asbestos involved, then the pricing may end up being adjusted, if I remember correctly, or read correctly. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So we may end up getting the demolition done cheaper, if that's the case. So, all right. Any other questions or comments, commissioners? All right. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gorman? Yes. Commissioner Cochin?
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right. That concludes our business. We don't have any. Oh, is there any other business from the city commission or staff? Commissioner Cochin.
Yeah, I would just like to remind everybody that we have the tree lighting ceremony coming up on the 30th. And if I could get my phone to get internet, I could tell you the exact time.
6 p.m.
6 p.m. Thank you.
You stole my thunder. I was going to bring that up.
Oh,
but
okay.
no, go ahead.
Well, I figured you would have brought it up first. So, yeah. So the tree lighting ceremony is always a fun, free activity for folks to come out. It's family friendly, and it's just a really great time to come together as a community. So, hope to see you there.
Indeed. Thank you, Commissioner Cochin. The tree lighting is expected to be at 6 p.m. We will have Mr. and Mrs. Claus joining us, and I'll be presenting the key to the city to Santa Claus. And then we'll be lighting the tree, and they'll be around as well for to engage with our community subsequently and doing photos and the like. There's also the glow event that's happening downtown. We've already seen the lights going up in different places throughout the downtown, Western and 3rd Street and the like, as well as the decorations at Hackley Park, very nicely done. And then the glow event is coinciding with our tree lighting, and they're encouraging people to come down at 5 p.m. For that. I don't know what all they necessarily have planned at Hackley Park, but I know that there are some other vendors that the city Parks and Recreation have worked with to be there, and they'll be caroling and I think coffee and cookies giveaway and the like. And the Lakeshore Legacy Project, which is doing the glow event, is encouraging people to bring canned goods too. So if you're coming downtown, please consider bringing canned goods for a donation. So, did I see your hand earlier, Commissioner Kilgo?
No, but I just wanted to shout out the Lakeshore Legacy Project and what they're doing downtown in regards to the Glow event. So that's what I had.
I stole your thunder.
We're just all really excited.
Teamwork.
Really excited.
All right, excellent. Something else, Commissioner
I
Cochin?
just wanted to make one more point. That the lights are continuing down Third Street this year as well, and so make sure you get down there and check out the local businesses and restaurants down there.
Mm-hmm. And also, Lakeside is decorated. We can't forget Lakeside District, and also they're doing their own tree lighting at the Pocket Park. That's December 7th, I believe. Yes. Saturday, December 7th. I think it's at 5:30. But check the Lakeside District Association Facebook page to confirm. But I'm pretty sure that tree lighting's at 5:30 on December 7th. So come on down to Lakeside and enjoy neighbors as well as various different businesses that we have down there. So I'll be at both events. Hope to see you there. Commissioner German.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just want to share, got some positive feedback from the community and especially residents between 5th and 6th Street, the alley that was paved. The citizens and tenants there are very appreciative that that alley was paved, and I thank also Director Van der Heide for his work and getting that done in his team. So thank you, and to the city. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing
that. And that's
that.
how those, I believe, social equity dollars were being used to help with that project. If I correct, Manager Seifert, yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner German. All right, anything else to bring up under any other business? All right. Moving on to public comment on general topics. We will start with our residents. I got two forums, starting with Randy Vanderwhite joining us from the McLaughlin neighborhood. Welcome, sir. You have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks.
Thank you and good evening. Yes, Randy Vanderwhite, president of the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association. Earlier this evening, as a commission, you approved the amendments to the zoning ordinances. Assuming this would happen on the request to speak form for a description of concern, I wrote an equitable pathway forward. In a nation where diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts are under attack on a federal and corporate level, I encourage our local government to not shy away from DEI efforts. As I reflected on the November 12th City Commission meeting at which a first reading of the amendments to the zoning ordinance were discussed, I thought about the lack of a mention of a document and an incorrect statement that were made. That document that failed to receive mention both on November 12th and tonight was one released in spring 2021 and, quote, was prepared for the Mayor's Institute on City Design by Dr. Ted Landsmark and Dr. Drusella Van Hengel with the assistance of Northeastern University public policy grad students at the request of the Mayor's Office of Muskegon, Michigan, end quote. That report is entitled, quote, Final Report, Investing Equitably in Jackson Hill, end quote. In particular, the research project was generated by the question of what to do with many city-owned parcels in Jackson Hill. The report concludes by stating that new urbanist principles have been successfully applied toward building and reconfiguring cities and neighborhoods across the United States, and that these principles could be used in Jackson Hill. Ultimately, the report states that this will entail changes in zoning ordinances. So in regards to making the zoning ordinances, well done, you did that this evening. However, the report goes on to state that a three-phase approach will be needed. Phase one recommendations are meant to be actionable immediately and would help Jackson Hill build on community assets by celebrating its strong neighborhood identity. The phase two recommendations said they could be completed within a year and would focus on strengthening Jackson Hill's community identity in the wider Muskegon region. Phase three recommendations were more complex and included the rezoning, and it was said that those would be done over a 5-year period. That was in this report that was presented. As stated earlier, this report came out in the spring of 2021. In spite of that final report, within 3 months, a recommendation came out saying that zoning forms were going to take place in the Angel, Nims, Jackson Hill, and McLaughlin neighborhoods. Later on, and I'm running out of short on time, later that was narrowed, not expanded like it was said at the last meeting, to be only on 3 neighborhoods, the Angel, the Jackson, and the McLaughlin Hill neighborhoods. I want to encourage you as the city manager, the mayor, and city commissioners to go back to that report and implement phases 1 and 2, and also to look at other anti-displacement policies that need to be implemented in primarily our black and brown neighborhoods. Thank you.
Mr. Vanderwhite. I'll just share with the commission as well, because not everyone was on the commission at the time of that report. That report was developed under 2 commissions ago under the previous mayor, who had it was under the auspices of the previous mayor that report was developed and brought forward to the commission. In spite of that, I think there are principles and elements of that report that are still relevant and could be carried forward and implemented. And so I would, this was before our manager as well, so we'll try to track down that report so it can be shared with the entire commission, so you know what was being discussed and referenced just now. I know that we have that somewhere, and get that shared. So next up, we have Miss Ann Vandermolen joining us from the city of Roosevelt Park. Welcome, and you have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks.
Hi. Okay. On our last phone call on September 26, 2022, Tracy brought up our video, but there shouldn't be a video because I told him to stop filming after about 5 minutes. If he went on filming, then that was illegal. And so why would he even bring it up on our last phone call? And in a text from February 12, 2021, he mentioned something about my body that I have no idea how he would remember after almost 8 years. So if he did go on filming, and if he happened to show DJ Hilson that film as some kind of evidence that he didn't hurt me, then in my opinion, DJ Hilson saw an illegal video. I'm not accusing DJ Hilson of anything, but in my opinion, Tracy manipulated me into filming, and I have to wonder if he's done this to anybody else, but I'm not accusing him of that. Also, if DJ Hilson has seen any video and wonders why it looks like I'm having a good time, it was a good day with Tracy, but I still hated him for the abuse. And I just lost my train of thought. But anyway, I believe that DJ Hilson has victim shamed me through Timothy Mott, because Timothy Mott kept asking me about slander. If DJ Hilson has victim shamed me for going back to Tracy, then he's essentially victim shamed all abused women in Muskegon County who have gone back to abusive boyfriends or abusive husbands. And many of those abused women have children with their abusive husbands or abusive boyfriends. So I believe that I'm owed an apology by Chief Kozel on behalf of the Muskegon Police Department for victim shaming. And I believe that I'm owed an apology by DJ Hilson because I believe he victim shamed me as well through Timothy Mott. And again, they're not just victim shaming me, they're victim shaming every abused woman in the city of Muskegon and every abused woman in the county of Muskegon. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vandermolen. All right, is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to give public comment at this time? Seeing none, we are going to go to the phones. The call-in number for public comment is 231-724-6721. When calling in, I ask you to turn down any audio in the background, and please announce yourself, and if you're a city resident, which neighborhood you may be calling from, and if you're not a city resident, which other township, village, or city you're calling from. Again, that phone number is 231-724-6721. Doesn't sound like we have any takers for call-in comments. Before we adjourn, though, I want to remind commissioners that there is an opportunity to do their Kim in the city manager's office, Kim Young, organized a tour for Monday. We discussed this at our last meeting under any other business, and people expressed an interest in touring the Muskegon Rescue Mission. And so and a tour has been organized for us to tour the Muskegon Rescue Mission next Monday, December 3rd, or is that 2nd? Where am I? December 2nd, next Monday, December 2nd, from 3 to 4:30, where we'll be touring the Muskegon Rescue Mission as well as the Community Resource Center there. So if you have not already, if you're available and interested, please let Kim in the city manager's office know that you'll be there. Because if we do end up having a quorum, we will just have to publish notification on our website as well as at City Hall, letting folks know that we are going to be convening expressly for the purposes of a tour and discussion. No action will be taken. No action items will be taken or anything like that at the meeting, just a tour. So I want to remind everyone of that opportunity.
Although we do
And then
have
afterwards, we do have a legislative policy committee meeting here at City Hall, and that will be at 5:30 p.m. And so I just want to remind commissioners that opportunity for both the tour at 3 and then the legislative policy committee meeting here at City Hall at 5:30 p.m. So, and that said, I do want to wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving. May it be safe and joyful, and in the spirit of recognizing that which we are grateful and thankful for, I do want to say thank you to my fellow commissioners, and thank you to all members of our organization. We have, and our partners as well. With our organization, we have an amazing community and a wonderful organization filled with people who are caring and committed and capable, and day in and day out endeavor to serve our community as best as possible and continue to work for the betterment of our community. So thank you to everyone in our organization and all of our community partners. That said, I would welcome a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner German, supported by Commissioner Kilgo to adjourn. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you. Take care and be well.